Welcome to another episode of One Soccer Direct. Mackenzie Barwell, Gareth Wheeler, and Jordan Wilson with you. You guys are looking sharp, ready for
Thank
the World
you.
Cup?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mac.
Feeling good. Feeling good.
You as well.
We got a lot to talk about today because obviously Canada have competed in one of their two pre-World Cup friendlies. Last night it was Uzbekistan. They won 2-0. What a monsoon, by the way, in Edmonton. The worst conditions you could probably ask for. But Wheels, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts overall as they lead into the real test on June 12th?
It was a tough watch at times. The good news is that they went on to win the game. Clean sheet. These are positive end results. And I do think that there was some notable performances in the second half as well. Overall, however, I think it provides some alarm, some concern about asking the question whether Canada is ready to go into this World Cup or not at this point. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom because I do once again think that there is some positive coming out of it, but some recurring themes and some familiar concerns just continue to resonate. Canada didn't start the game very well, just like we saw against Iceland and Tunisia. Like the structure of this team defensively at times, when they commit too many players forward, it leaves them exposed. And there were two clear-cut breakaways where Uzbekistan players should have, let's be honest, have done better and punished Canada. And I think better teams at the World Cup, quite frankly, would have. The recurring injuries at the back, the injury concerns, the players not necessarily being match fit, that remains a concern. We're just over a week out from a World Cup. An attack which at times looks stagnant. There's no flow, there's no rhythm, there's no real identity. Rather than to pursue chaos and then try to capitalize on that, I just don't see that as a sustainable way to create the attack. Jonathan David, we'll get into him a little bit, but was relatively anonymous. He's supposed to be Canada's best player. So there's clear and present concerns about this team. You want everything to come together with some semblance of stability, familiarity going into a World Cup. And I just feel right now at this very late hour, there's a lot of questions that continue to persist and swirl around this team, and important ones as well. When you take away Davies, Bombito, Flores, Ahmed from this team, I think that you're left playing shorthanded, and that's the reality of what they're dealing with right now. So I just don't think it was a really great performance by Canada, and I think it didn't really come around to answer a lot of the questions that continue to persist.
The first half, you're expecting more, right? And I think the second half, obviously some subs, different players stepping up in different moments. Then we got a little bit more satisfied with the performance. But after 30 games under Jesse Marsh, this Canadian men's national team, they will play with tempo. They will sometimes even play chaotic. They will rush. They will make sure that they're on the front foot. And that I can appreciate. But one thing we will probably judge this team about in this next month, or hopefully beyond, is how well they can do in the attacking third. And I think as a player, any match you come away with and you keep a clean sheet and you end up scoring 2 goals, you have to be satisfied to some degree. But I think fans who watch this team closely and intimately, it's okay to have a little bit of doubt in the attacking end about what's going on, because we'll get into it in depth soon, but some of our best attacking players, if they're not in positions where they're getting those touches or getting in areas around the box to maybe affect change in a positive way, then we're like, is this really system working? I understand when Christian Jack, the One Soccer reporter, asked Jesse Marsh at the end of the game, like, how do you feel about it? And he said this team is playing good, or they played good yesterday. By every margin that Jesse Marsh would base his team on or grade them on, they played up tempo. They started fresh. They got forward. They were chaotic, but they didn't have any true attack, specifically in the first half. Second half, there's a little bit more transition and players that stepped up. But that's how Canada's going to play. So is that enough? I mean, we'll see in 10 days, but I can understand where Reels is coming from because, yeah, you have a bit of mixed emotions when you look at this team.
Hold on, my turn, Reels.
Yeah, I was like, do you think he was actually happy with the performance?
Well, let me challenge you guys a little bit here. Jordan, I'll come back to you on this. It's hard to say whether or not they were going full throttle or whether that was their intention or not because of the torrential downpour, the conditions, some players trying to avoid injury and make sure that their recovery is, on the right trajectory. Do you feel like there was enough of a switch or enough momentum in that second half to really have glimmers of hope with those substitutes that came on and made a difference? I mentioned to you before we got on this call, like Jonathan Osorio, I felt like he injected life into the team.
Yeah, many people counting him out, right? And didn't even feel like he should be a part of the 26. And I think he showed yesterday in 45 minutes what happens when you put a player with experience, now the second most capped with 90, which is, I remember playing against this guy in high school at Edmond Campion. Like the fact that he's gone on to do this and add 2 World Cups, like, we could write a book just on Jonathan Osorio and his story. It's incredible. But I say all that to say is that players that are versatile, players that want to get on the ball, what happens when Canada, you press for 45 minutes and you're chaotic, and all of a sudden you have more players that want to get on the ball and make something happen? It could be a team that could maybe score goals in transition and play. So there were those bright moments in the second half. But I think also, too, people that are saying, oh, this Canadian team put 1 foot in and 1 foot out, weren't going hard into tackles. Did they watch the same game I watched? I saw Kone, Johnson. I saw all these players going in. And anyone knows, Wheels, you know this better than anyone. Grassroots, when you go in soft, that's when you get hurt. You dangle your leg in 50%, it comes out different, rearranged. So I thought everyone that started the match specifically went full in. Are you going to give 100% like it's a World Cup game? You're probably going to take a few percentage off, but I don't think they took many. Guys were locked in, but what we'll probably get into is the players that you probably want to see thrive and flourish maybe didn't do that yesterday to start the match, and that's maybe a bit of a concern if you're a Canadian fan.
Well, there were stabilizing factors in the second half as well. Players who are generally fit. I thought Luc de Fougerolles coming into the game really stabilized things. Making sure that you played with a left-footed left back with Nico Seegers flipping over to the right-hand side. Like, they got to find balance in this team. And that's what I think is going to be critically important. I think there was more balance in the second half. Against the Uzbekistan team, out of an expanded 48 team World Cup, this team's going to be in the bottom 8 in terms of quality. A lot of their players play in Uzbekistan. I mean, Husanov is a fantastic player. But aside from that, again, this Uzbekistan side should have been up. Shomurodov is in on a complete breakaway, and I think his shot attempt was closer to being a throw-in than it was a goal kick. It was embarrassing.
Put his hands up.
I know. It was just a tough one. I just didn't. Overall, Marsh might be pleased with the performance. Just watching from my perspective, I just don't think that there was anything to be really too impressed about. Yes, some notable performances, and they were able to right the ship, and at the end of the day, come away with a win. I think that is a positive. But overall, the performance needs to be so much better. It needs to be sharp. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a better side. They're more established, more players playing at a higher level than that Uzbekistan team. So as a run out in the rain, okay. But still at this late hour with years of preparation going behind this, I just expect a little bit more from this group, who I think all of us believe their ceiling is much higher than what they're showing.
Wheels, let's talk about Moise Bombito, because this is a player who we've waited and in anticipation to be match fit for the World Cup. And he has been very adamant that he will be ready for June 12th and wants to be called upon if Jesse Marsh chooses to do so. I think we expected him to play a little longer than he did yesterday. What was most alarming was seeing him sort of limp off the pitch. You saw after 30 minutes, he was done. What were your thoughts on his first half hour, Gareth?
When I walk like a limp, it's intentional and it looks dope. When Moise Bombito is doing it, it raises level of concern. It wasn't just the video of him coming off at halftime, limping to the dressing room with ice on his leg. Overall, his performance, it wasn't that Bombito that we grew accustomed to seeing play for Canada, 18 months ago, when he was a dominant force. Movements were free. Every movement was intentional. It was strong. It was with purpose. This was really tentative, and to the point where I don't think that this is just rust. legitimate questions have to be asked whether Moise Bombito should be playing in this World Cup or whether he should have been on the field to start that game on Monday night. He's a young man. You don't want to put him in any harm. We have been there, done that before, and it just seemed like he was put in a position to fail and not succeed, especially in those conditions as well. I worry about him. As someone who broke my tib fib before, it is a long road to recovery. And I appreciate that the player is doing everything he can to be on the field. Him telling KJ that he's 100% going to be ready to play in the first game, it just seems like wishful thinking. And you don't want to see a player suffer through something that they're really not capable of dealing with right now. For me on the field, he was a liability. Derek Cornelius, because he hasn't played, he was all over the shop in the first half as well. I don't worry about his fitness, but he needs to get match sharp as soon as possible. If not, that center back pairing is going to be one riddled with questions. So at this point, if Marsh kind of shrugged off concerns. He said he's going to be ready to go for Ireland. We will see. If he's going to be gambling on Bombito being part of the 26, it's not just going to be him. It's going to be him and Alphonso Davies going forward. How many players with significant question marks can you carry? That's what it comes down to. I think that just locks in Ralph Priso. He has to be included in that Marcelo Flores spot that's come available now, because just not knowing what things are going to look like across the back line, it's essential coming up with some answers. And certainly Bombito, his performance has just left more questions.
Wheels, Mac, we can't question the fact that Bombito has heart. Like, if you ask any athlete and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to co-host the World Cup and to play and start as a center back, you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to be ready. I think yesterday what stuck out to me is that his heart is there, but his body might not be. And it might not be there in time. And as much as we want to see that, and as much as Copa America, when we think about Moise Bombito, how he burst onto the scene and he was just such an electric center back, and we had hope that, okay, Canada can really push, it just might not happen. And honestly, that's okay. That's something that fans, you have to support, because timing is everything in life, but specifically in football. And sometimes situations like this, you look at Moyes with his strength, with the way that he reads the game, his pace. And if he's just not up to snuff and he's not there at that time, we have to just deal with that. Do you know what I mean? I think there are players like Luc de Frugerolles that was a bright spark for me last night in terms of his composure. I know people say that he's 20 and he's young, maybe too young to lead in the back there. I like the way that he played and slotted in. I totally agree with Wheels, though. I don't want to see a world where we don't start either Bombito or Cornelius. So that's for me a part, or for a shout out to him to go and step up and to lead that back line and that center back role. But I think Jesse Marsh has done a great job at putting the next man up. There are guys that, of course, I will say this and raise my hand, we want Bombito. But if he can't go and he's hobbling and clearing balls on like one foot, and you can see that he's in discomfort, like, we are not questioning your loyalty to your country. It's just that if you're not ready to go, you're not ready to go. So that's what stuck out to me yesterday with Bombito, is that an ideal world, even for me, the way we've covered the game, I was like, Bombito or bust. It really felt like that. But I think yesterday I took a step back to just be like, you know what, there are other options, and he's given everything. And there's a reason that he hasn't played in over 200 days. There's a reason. For just come back and start erasing things right away, you're not superhuman. You need time to ramp things up. And I'm going to give him a lot of grace because he absolutely deserves that.
If not him, who, Jordan?
The Frugerolles. Like, without question yesterday, the one thing that stuck out to me is that that's the guy that plays. That should be the guy. I know Waterman's competent. I know people love Alfie Jones as well. The composure that 20-year-old has, slot him right in there. And he's played. Outside of Waterman, he's played the most at that spot too. So, like, outside of Bombito and Cornelius, like, that is his role. And then yesterday for me, the fact that Jesse Marsh played Ralph Priso at left back, I'm like, you have a guy who can slot into the middle, who could play in a back three, who's left-footed, could play center back, and could also play left back, and you're going to leave him out of a 26 when you don't know if people are healthy. Ralph Priso, right there. That is the easiest solution, and it was so present yesterday.
De Frugerolles was the star performer for me for Canada. He's always played well under Jesse Marsh, and for Canada, just don't let him take a pen. Like that's it. Other than that, I have no problem. I will take 100% of Luc de Fougerolles over 50% or whatever percent of Moise Bombito any day of the week.
Let's move up the field, guys. Jordan, I'll come back to you on this one. Obviously, Jesse Marsh elected Kyle Larin up top alongside Jonathan David. Larin had 10 touches, completed 3 of 4 passes. Then looking at Jay David, he went 70 minutes, created 3 chances. But what sticks out in terms of these stats are the fact that the two of them had just 2 touches in the box. They combined for 2 touches in the box. In your mind, Jordan, why is Canada sort of struggling to inject some life in their attack right now?
I think by design, they focus on defending, they focus on press, they focus on being in the right position, and not enough onus or attention is on how they're going to attack. And I know people will say that, okay, maybe there's a way that I'm being a hater on things. No, I like that Jesse Marsh has brought this philosophy, but I understand that the game of football is 2 ways: how you defend and how you attack. And I think the chaos, that brand of like, we're going to go press, we're going to run, throw in, get the ball, we got to whip it in, we got to get forward, and okay, we lose it, we go repress. That is a Jesse Marsh brand that we've seen over 30 days and beyond. I want to go to his past. That is what he's brought to Canada, which is great. But I'll tell you what every other country is looking at when they look at Canada. Make sure we're compact, because these guys can run. They're quick. They get forward in transition. We can get into it as well. Look at the 2 goals that Canada scored yesterday. In transition from a repress and there's space, and then they're able to play a 4v4, 4v3, and get a shot on target. That's Canada's DNA. So teams are going to try to nullify that. But I think in the first half, when everyone's fresh, when there's not a lot of space, when Kyle Larin doesn't have a lot of space to move or service, it's not going to bring out the best in Kyle. But I also think that's how Jesse Marsh designed it. This is the next man up. Who's going to finish games? Who's going to start it? You look at Kyle Larin at Southampton, they were service. Players played him in the channels. People played him to hold up the ball and link off of him, right? There's crosses coming in all the time for him to just pick out a spot. How many times yesterday we were looking at Canada and they're whipping in the ball in the first half and there's crosses for Larin? I could tell you not many. Like, I counted maybe 2 in 45 minutes. So it's just the way that they play. So I feel for Kyle, because I think the way that Jesse Marsh, what he prioritizes with this team, it suits Atani Oluwaseyi, it suits many other players, but it doesn't suit the big man who still can be a menace in front of goal. I just don't see how this Jesse Marsh system can suit Kyle Larin. Definitely when you start matches, when teams are so, they have so much energy and they're so compact.
Yeah, he's not in Southampton anymore. How many good games has Kyle Larin had under Jesse Marsh? Is it over under 1? Like, that's what it comes down to now. He just hasn't had an impact playing in this system and with this team. And we know that he can play with Jonathan David because we saw it during World Cup qualifying ahead of 2022. The two were dynamic. They played off one another expertly. So the player has it, but just not playing this system in this way. More so than Larin, because I think there's a decent debate about who should start at the number 9 in this tournament. The biggest story for me continues to be the fact that Jonathan David, the way that he's used positionally for this team, isn't bringing out the best in him. He's coming off a last couple months where he really struggled at Juventus, just 1 goal in his last 14 games in all competitions, was in and out of the team. And he hasn't really had a great performance in Canada for quite some time. His last goal in open play was against Romania, and that really good performance that Jonathan David had at the end of last summer. Last summer against Ukraine, like, he was unplayable, but now I feel like he's dropping too deep. He's defending too much, and he's not using the channels or getting inside the area anywhere near enough. Just 2 touches inside the 18-yard box for Jonathan David when Canada had the bulk of possession the first half as well. I don't want to see him tracking back and trying to tackle players or chase down players or be the player that is the link from a deep lying position. I want to see him teetering on the edge of the line. I want to see him getting in behind the line, getting inside the area, getting into dangerous spots, and it's just not happening quite enough. I think we're beyond the point that this is going to change. I think that Jonathan David just didn't really have a good game last night, and that's concerning because he's Canada's best player who's available right now, and he needs to be an impact player. But simply put, last night, he was quite anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, to both of your points, it's interesting to see the contrast between, especially with these two guys, them playing at the national level and them at the club level. But also, though, worth noting, Taniel O'Shea and Promise David came on and really made a difference. Let's talk about everybody's favorite debate, and that is the starting goalkeeper position for the Canadian men's national team. Sounds like Jesse will make the decision ahead of Friday's game against Ireland. Crepeau was great, especially in that first half. We saw him make some great saves, but are we reading too much into this? Is this going to be the guy? Gareth?
Yes, Jesse Marsh isn't making this decision on one game. Max Crepeau making a great save off an offside header. Like it's not going to happen. It's going to be based upon fit. It's going to be about body of work. It's going to be about who he trusts the most. Now, I do think there's an indication, the fact that Crepeau started the game, that he might be the clubhouse leader at this point. I'll go back on it. This decision shouldn't be being made this week. It should have been made months ago. The fact that we're still in this position, we're putting these goalkeepers in a very difficult position. If one goes out and makes a blunder against Ireland, collectively, what are onlookers saying? How do the goalkeepers feel about that position? The fact that one person hasn't been pinpointed as the number one right now, to me, shows me that Jesse Marsh probably doesn't fully trust either one of them, although he says the opposite. I think he's trying to empower them. He's looking for something. I'm not quite sure what it is. At this point, he just has to name one and get on with it.
It's gone on too long. It's like, I'm actually fed up. It's gone on too long now. Like, we're 10 days away and we still don't know. And people are saying, flip a coin. Let's rock, paper, scissors. Like, the jokes are endless.
It's embarrassing.
Like, at a point, like, probably months ago, you should just back one. If they're close and they're similar and there's attributes you like about both of them, that is fine. That's football. Pick one. So we know what's going on. I think for me, never played at a World Cup, never played for a national team. But I'd like to know when I look back at my keeper who it was. Just to say their name, just to be like, Max, come out. Dane, I got you. I'm going to bump this. Like, those little nuances help. With all this change and all this turnover and rotation and not knowing who's healthy, that stability and what that could do for your team would do wonders. Pick
Great
one.
point.
Whether it be, what's today? Wednesday? I don't even know.
Tuesday.
Pick one.
Tuesday.
Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day. Pick one. Before you go to Ireland.
90 minutes. 90 minutes on Friday.
Pick
90
one.
minutes.
So this is the man who's starting in between the sticks for Canada. Boom. Done. And live with the decision as it be. Because I think this going into that match and you're splitting again, it's just, let's have some continuity. Pick one.
But do you know the thing is, like, no matter who he picks now, he's opening up the door for second guessing because it's taken so
100%.
long.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
so right.
that Jesse's put himself in a vulnerable position, completely unnecessarily. This is a self-inflicted wound here.
Fair. Jordan, let's talk about another question mark, and that is Alphonso Davies. He completed a light workout before the game on Monday, but it still is unclear whether he'll play or what stage he'll play at in the World Cup. We know he will be there. What's the latest you're hearing around this?
Yeah, obviously he said yesterday as well that the 12th is a no-go for him. I think similar to how I felt about Bombito in terms of I was like pushing for certain players to be there on the 12th and it just felt right. But understanding like life and timing, it might not be that way. If Alphonso Davies right now could say, hey, I'm not ready to play on the 12th, I'm just keeping that open because that might not be the 18th against Qatar. That might not be Switzerland as well. Understand that this guy has a reoccurring injury, like 3 times with a hamstring, right? So I think if we're taking in what was said in statements and how he feels about let's get him to 100%, does 100% look like the 18th or the 24th? And I get it. This is a World Cup where everyone's gonna, if they're feeling 80%, are gonna want to go and try. But is like that what we want from Alphonso Davies in Canada? Hence why I just want to throw this out there quickly. Why I said, I don't know if I even want to see him in that left back role because he might just be, okay, see what you could do for 20 minutes and go for it in a left mid or to finish a match or round of 32 to say that he did it against Switzerland. And maybe you're able to let him have a good rest and time to build up his body as opposed to let's start a match at left back and leave him vulnerable to go and get injured. So it doesn't look great if people are pushing and believing that he's going to be ready for this World Cup because I'm kind of my hands are up right now, just being like it might not be a thing. But like I said to you many times, Mac and Wheels, it's just like the fact that he's there, the fact that he's in the Nocta Drake tracksuit, by the way, which was fire. That thing was incredible. Wow.
Priorities.
But the fact that he was there, I was like, that's what you want to see. Of course, you want to see him play, but the fact that he's around the brothers, that's a win in itself. But I just don't know if he's going to be ready and be playing in these group stages.
He did, when he spoke to the media, when he spoke on the Sid Sixera show, it just doesn't breathe a whole lot of confidence in the fact that he will be ready to play. It just sounds like he's a player that doesn't trust his body right now, and rightfully so. You understand why.
Yeah.
And the fact that Alphonso's being a little bit vulnerable right now, he's approaching this in a completely different way. I read a lot of the other guys, there's bravado around it, maybe overselling. I like that they're proceeding with caution here. And no matter what, like, it doesn't sound like Davies is going to be ready to play in the group stage. We'll see what that means later on. Right now, I'm probably more 30-70 that he's going to play at this World Cup. Like, it's looking bleak. But at the same time, as the 26th player of 26, he's worth the risk. You have to keep him involved. You have to keep him in the group just in case. But I think anything at this point you can get out of Davies is a bonus. But track record for players coming back from injury, trying to hit the ground running at a World Cup isn't great, just in terms of their performance and what that means. So the big picture is being applied here. This timing sucks. Like, it sucks for everyone involved, but that's the reality of sport, and that's the reality that Davies is dealing with right now.
Yeah, Jordan, you mentioned earlier that with Moyes, you felt like his heart is in it, but his body can't be, and I feel like that's the theme for a lot of these players. In terms of brutal timing, I mean, Marcelo Flores, he's been ruled out because of his ACL injury that took place during the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. Man, Gareth, when you're watching this game yesterday, how much did you miss his presence on the field, knowing like how unique and how much flair he really brings to this team?
Well, I'm gutted for the player. Like, man, what a heartbreaking way to go out. And that's a serious injury, rupturing your ACL. So I wish Marcelo nothing but the best. With all due respect, I think that his absence is largely being overstated by people around this that are watching the national team right now. He's played 2 games for Canada, 2 games in the previous window. Like, I think we're just getting a glimpse of what Flores may be able to do. I think we all rate him as a player, but I think it's more of an indictment of Canada's attack that you're relying on a player, a very young player just coming in, a player that's really just got serious burn just in terms of his first team football over recent months, and making him the potential savior, someone that's able to crack open a back line and provide something in attack. Like, the rest of the group collectively needs to be able to produce that. So yes, Flores is a miss, but I think it's being overstated what his absence could mean. So it opens up a window for someone else to come in. Look, I think that spot, based upon Bombito's performance, I'll say it again, Ralph Priso needs to be the player that takes up that spot, even though you're missing out an attacker. But then all eyes then turn to Ali Ahmed and Jacob Schaffelberg. Those are 2 left-sided wide players that would be ahead of Jaden Nelson, let's be honest, in terms of his inclusion. But if, for example, Jacob Schaffelberg, who looks to be the player that's trailing, that's really in a race for time right now, if he can't go, then that's how potentially a Jaden Nelson gets into the team. But that's the reality of the situation. Right now, you have an open spot for Flores. You have questions around Bombito, questions around Schaffelberg. So there could be up to 3 changes being made to the 26 ahead of the June 12th opener.
Wheels, Marcelo Flores wouldn't be the savior, and we can agree on that, but I think it would be a viable solution. Like, when I think about specifically now with Ahmed being out, and we don't know how well or fit he will be or how quick his recovery is, the fact that now, okay, everyone would say Marcelo Flores would be the left mid coming off the bench, or would probably be second in line. The fact that he's gone, and then the dream of these players or the people that watch this team and say, well, this is a guy that could play in a more central attacking role as like a 10. The fact that he's gone as well, then you're like, okay, it's almost like a 2-for-1 special that we just lost, right? This is what he could bring. And I get it. He's new, he's fresh, he's only played 2 games, but the dream of what he could be at this World Cup and how he could help, but what he could be beyond at this very time, it does hurt. We have to give a shout out to some of the players, though, that for me maybe didn't start the game yesterday, but just came on and did wonders. We got to give a shout out to Oso and his IQ and the fact that he knows how to read the game. The fact that he kept tucking in from that right-hand side and be like, look, I'm not a right winger. I'm going to get on the ball and make things happen and overload and make sure I play the ball forward. I love that. I love the fact that Tanny didn't start, but he didn't sulk and had 2 left-footed assists, right? And was just busy, like moving and grooving. I was like, I love that because 1, that's the Jesse Marsh way, but 2, that's also how you assert yourself into a coach's mind and make sure that you are present. He did that time and time again, like the repress. Tanny would lose the ball, put his head down right away and go and try to win it back. But also played unselfish. The 2 passes and to give the assist, that's the type of football you got to play. I almost thought, okay, perfect. Start Tanny and just flip Jay David and him, and then I'll be happy. Put him at the 10 and let him just bump shoulders with people, win the ball.
Don't you think, like,
put Jay David high?
Jordan, Tanny does everything right. The finish is erratic, but he creates enough chances because of his attributes and his ability to read the game and get in the right spots that I think
100%.
he's going to, it's a matter of time before he finishes. He just seems like the right fit. And just Promise David, I mean, he looks good. You don't want to push him too much too soon, but he looks like the real solution up top for Canada. Like, he is a force. He is a specimen. He is a finisher. I think that is a huge positive coming out of this game. The fact that Promise came on and looked like Promise David. Like, these are some of the answers, potential solutions that came about in that game that are the positives to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to, like, again, I want my list. I'm going to make sure. So Promise is absolutely one on that. And now Jesse Marsh can't ignore him. For a guy who's only played 200 minutes but scored 3 goals, look what he did. In 5 minutes of being on the pitch, there was 3 Uzbekistan players put him in a horse collar, grabbing his jersey. Like, he's just a handful. He's too much to manage. And then, yes, it was an offside goal, but we saw what happens when you give him a ball and he can just run. No one can take it off him. Finished with the left foot, and that left hip was the one that was injured as well. Didn't look injured to me, the way he struck it. The last one I got to give a shout out to, there are a lot of players that stepped up yesterday, but Jaden Nelson. This is how you respond when a coach says you're out of the 26. You do not sulk. The curls are still blowing in the wind from yesterday. He was busy, active, ready to go. And yes, okay, it was on a platter for him, but he finished that with class. Mm-hmm. The pass from Oluwaseyi as well. But he was a guy that was running at players. And I get Liam Miller and I get Tajon Buchanan in the beginning of the match. There was a lot of help. They weren't just looking at one defender. There's always a midfielder coming over. They were blocked up. It was hard to really go and exploit that space. But Jaden said, yo, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get tackled, but I'm going to keep going. And now all of a sudden, you're saying to Jesse, he's hearing you at 3 a.m, like, I'm ready. Like, you can pick me. That's what you do, Jaden Nelson. I love this. Make it difficult for Jesse Marsh.
Yeah, Jesse's going to hear his voice in his sleep for sure. Yeah. As I said, though, guys, this is just the first of 2 pre-World Cup games, the second of which comes on Friday against Ireland. We'll be back again with another episode of One Soccer Direct on Thursday to preview that game. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.